What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Brighton 1, Manchester United 0. Late penalty drama at the Amex as Brighton probably deserved all 3 points, didn't they? This is the full-time view where you can get your comments in, your reactions in, and we try and dissect, analyse and react to what just happened on the pitch as Manchester United yet again have lost away from home in the Premier League against a side that's at the top half of the table. Still, since we played Fulham all the way back in November, we are still yet to get a victory against a side that started off the day in the top half. The stat going into the game I saw as well was that we are yet to keep a clean sheet away from home against a side in the top half of the table since all the way back in 2021 where we defeated Spurs 3-0, and that continued today as well. And look, it's really, really disappointing. Upon reflection, you'd probably say Brighton deserved it. It was a close game, and I thought for the first half we did all right. We did okay. And in comparison to recent away performances, going into the game, honestly, I wasn't expecting all that much considering our form this season. But I thought in the first half we did show some fight, some intensity, some pressing, and we created chances. But yet again, the biggest takeaway from this game is that I'm not going to blame Luke Shaw for conceding the penalty or anything like that. I'm going to blame David De Gea for not saving penalties because he doesn't save penalties, because David De Gea made some really big saves today, particularly at the end there. He tipped one round the post and went through a couple of players' legs. What I am going to point at when it comes to this defeat is that we are just not clinical. And people like to point to Manchester United's goal difference this season, don't they? They like to say, oh, look, United are on whatever it is at the moment. It's like single digit something. And they point that to the big defeats that we've had against Man City or Liverpool or Brentford or whatever. In reality, what you can put it down to is that our goal scoring just is not good enough. Our goal scoring is not there. We are not clinical enough. We created more than enough chances in the first half to go into halftime a couple of goals up. Second half, we didn't show up. We didn't create. The intensity wasn't there. And we got punished for it, because in any Premier League game, let alone when you're playing Brighton at the Amex, if you don't take your chances, you're going to get punished. You make your own luck. That's how it works. When you've got a couple of opportunities where you're through on goal, I think about Anthony. He's basically one-on-one. He puts it wide. Martial has a couple of chances. Rashford has a couple of chances. Or even those half chances when you're just waiting for the final pass and the decision-making just isn't there. It's head down instead of head up. Look for your partners. Look for your attacking players. And it's head down. Make the wrong pass. Wrong ball. That was the issue today. That was the real problem. That's what came back to bite us. Because a clinical team, a good team, a quality team, your Man Cities, your Arsenals, your Newcastles, even your Liverpools at the moment in their recent form, if they have those chances, or at least a couple of those chances they have in the first half, minimum they score one. Minimum. And if you don't take your chances, as I mentioned, it's a very simple game, football sometimes. You make your own luck. That's it. Make your own luck. And I look at people like Anthony Martial today. I look at people like Marcus Rashford and Anthony, and I say that the decision making at critical points, at points where you've got to be clinical away from home, wasn't good enough. And yet again, we come out of a game going, man, if only we had a striker, If only we had a proper clinical number 9. What a difference it would make, because that was really the difference for it today. Now, obviously, we're going to go into players individually and we're going to go into the minutiae of the game and react to it, but it's ultimately really disappointing. Now, I'm not going to come on here and be so reactionary and be like, we've bottled the top 4, top 4's gone, we're bottling it, it's over. It is not over. It is still... I always dread to use this phrase, but it is true. It's still firmly within our grasp. What do we need? 3 wins. We've got home games. We've got a game on Sunday against West Ham that if we get a victory out of that one, you would then say, look, it's near enough done anyway. But you know, that game, it started off here in the first half going, to tell you what, we can win this game. We can, forget the away judge and the away form and how poor we've been away from home this season. We can win this. To second half, look, let's get out of here with a point. It'll be a good point considering how poor we've been away from home. To now, 0 points. And yet again, we go, we just are shit away from home. We just can't do it away from home. But I still, like I said, I still think we'll get top 4. I'm not going to be reactionary. Brighton are a good side. Ultimately, they deserved it today, but gotta take your chances. You have to. And to be honest, even evidence has been there in some of our home games recently. You look at games where we actually ended up winning against Aston Villa, Everton, Brentford, where you come out of the game and you go, we won, but we had a lot more chances to win that we didn't take. And we created opportunities that we weren't clinical enough in. And away from home, you get less of those and you will be punished because of it. You allow the team to get back into the game. And that's what happened. The penalty decision itself, look, it is a penalty. I'd be claiming for it. I'm not going to be naive and be like, it's never a penalty. The moment your hand goes up here, if the ball hits you, whether you meant it or not, they are going to give it. It doesn't matter at any point of the game. You know me, I love a whinge about referees. I thought a couple of bad decisions for us, but a couple of bad decisions for them as well. I mean, I think Casemiro was very fortunate to be on the pitch because at one point, I mean, he gets booked for a first tackle in the first half, which is just very, very clinical. It's a yellow card. The second one is very lucky not to get it, and then he was flying into tackles second half as well. So he got lucky with that too. So I sit here not with too many complaints about the defeat, honestly. My biggest complaint is, in terms of, it was an injustice or anything like that, my biggest issue is with ourselves because we did this to ourselves, honestly. Let's see what a couple of you guys are saying. We've got a super chat here from Nathan. Says, I'm actually fuming tonight. We can't have any complaints. We literally haven't showed anything away from Old Trafford. Top 4 is really in the balance. Look, obviously, and again, I think... My biggest frustration is, honestly, I kind of half expected us, honestly, to lose tonight. I mean, I know that's very defeatist and very negative, but just the evidence isn't there that we were going to win this one. But the manner of it is really frustrating and annoying. But as I mentioned, we can still get the job done. Whether that's just being solely relying on home form, which I think is incredibly risky because you never know. But maybe that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to kind of stumble over the line, as it were, to get the top 4 this season. But it's incredibly, incredibly frustrating, no doubt about it. See what a couple of you guys are saying in the chat as well before we get into, as I mentioned, some post-match reaction from the quotes as they come in. We'll talk about individual players too. We'll do kind of like a live interactive player ratings. I know a lot of you really enjoy player ratings, whether it's the video version, the studio version. So we'll do our own version of that as well. M says we had plenty of chances in the first half. Anthony should have scored in the first 2 minutes. Absolutely. I mean, I was furious not only with the fact that he missed, but he missed the target. He didn't even get it on target. I saw after the game Sky Sports were interviewing the Brighton goalkeeper, and he made a couple of decent saves, but none of the saves that the Brighton keeper made, I would even go as far to say, brilliant save, or the players had their head in their hands going, I can't believe how on earth has he saved that. They were all fairly routine saves. The Martial one straight down his throat. All of them, again, fairly comfortable. David De Gea made the better saves in this match, in my opinion. Again, particularly in the dying moments where it goes for a couple of players' legs and he tips it round the post. I thought David De Gea actually did really well this evening. Again, I can't complain about the goalkeeper. I can't complain about the defending because I thought United actually, again, defended fairly well. I mean, people will look at Luke Shaw and go, handball, but I actually thought Luke Shaw defended well. I thought Lindelof did well. I mean, he had a shaky start in the first half where he gave the ball away. De Gea made the save again. But I thought defensively, we were okay. Like we were Wan-Bissaka against Matoma. It was a really interesting battle. Matoma maybe had a little bit more joy than he had in the FA Cup semi-final, but I thought Wan-Bissaka again did very well. That wasn't the issue. The issue wasn't in our defensive part of the pitch. Our issue was up front because the decisions just aren't there. The accurate or proper decision making isn't there. Marcus Rashford, man, for all of the praise that we've given him this season, and justifiably so, I mentioned this recently, I am still convinced, you cannot convince me otherwise, since he came back from his injury that he was out for, that he's still not carrying something, because it just doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't look the same. And maybe these are sort of the old Rashford traits coming back in, but so on a couple of occasions where counter-attack settings, makes a first touch, and you're saying square it or put through Martial or put through Bruno or put through Anthony, and he just runs down the blind alley or runs into the players. And in one occasion he ran, took the shot, the keeper made the save, and I saw commentary went, oh, it's a good save from the goalkeeper. But no, get your head up, look across and square it. Decision making. Anthony is the same. A couple of counter-attacks, it's Anthony gets the ball, and at one point, Wan-Bissaka makes a run around him, but instead he's got to cut back inside, and he cuts back into traffic, cuts back into where the defenders are. Again, it's the wrong decision. Anthony Martial was the same. His touch wasn't there tonight. He was slow. He was lethargic. Second half, he really did nothing. He just fizzled out of the game. And again, in Premier League matches away from home, back when United was so successful and winning the league, he used to get it all the time. United away from home, they used to play terribly. One counter-attack, one goal. Clinical, because that's how it has to work in the Premier League, particularly against a side like Brighton that's playing very, very well this season. I mean, I was kind of dumbfounded a little bit when going into the game. You know, I saw Flex on his preview and on the road trip, people were saying, oh, you're being really negative, Flex. Why don't you think United are going to pick up any points? Or why don't you think United's going to win or get anything out of this game? And the answer was very simple, because we haven't seen anything this season to suggest we'll get anything away from home at a place like the Amex. And he was proven to be correct. Not that we revel in it. I'd much rather he be wrong in that instance. But it's the same old story away from home, really, isn't it? Just, again, not clinical, not good enough. When the pressure gets tough, you know, done. That's it. And just looking at the table now, still got a game in hand over Liverpool. We're 4 points ahead of them, still firmly within our grasp, within our hands. My worry now is that, you know, we go away to West Ham at the weekend, which we should win, but it's away from home in the Premier League. Thankfully, by the way, the away record this season, the away judge, doesn't actually count when it comes to sides in the bottom half. So maybe because West Ham's in the bottom half, we can actually win that one, because our record away from home against teams in the bottom half is okay. We've actually managed to beat some of those teams, so maybe that's what we're looking for. But going into that game now, the pressure will be on, no doubt about it, because Liverpool play first before us, don't they? We play basically last, don't we? Because we play Sunday 7 p.m. kickoff, which, by the way, is a piss take. But Liverpool play at the weekend. Who have they got in their fixture? They got Brentford at home, which, you know, it's not going to be easy, but you would fancy them at Anfield. Then we go into that game. It's going to be a point. It could be a point difference, and that is when you have to say, look, now you've got to manage the pressure. You've put yourselves in that situation. It's still within your hands. You control your own destiny, but don't throw it away. Don't throw it away, because if we're talking about back-to-back defeats, then again, it's still in our hands, but that cushion that we worked hard for, it's vanished very, very quickly. And this is why when we defeated Villa last weekend, we were so happy, because we you know, I think if you've watched United this season, you saw a result like today coming, and you saw these two away games and went, this ain't good. This is not going to go well. So we needed to beat Aston Villa, and that's why. But going into that West Ham game, let's face it, the odds are that Liverpool are going to be a point behind us. And now we gotta take it, and we just got to be more clinical. Got to take the chances. And I don't know. I mean, again, how are you guys thinking when it comes to the game at the weekend already? Not that I want to just completely... Well, I do want to just skate over this, because I don't want to think about it again. But how are you guys feeling about the game at the weekend? I mean, do you know what it was too? Is, you know, sometimes when you concede a late penalty, or you concede with the last kick of the game, and you feel this great sense of injustice sometimes, don't you? Oh, this ain't fair, or this is bullshit, or just our luck. But it doesn't feel like that tonight. I can't put my finger on it, but I didn't come out, when they got the penalty and they scored, I didn't sit here like, oh, we've been so hard done by, or, oh, we don't deserve that. I just sort of sat here and went, you know, kind of deserve. You make your own luck. If we'd have come out of that with a point, we'd have said, look, we'll take that. We'd have taken it before kickoff anyway, but we'll take that because second half they were really knocking at the door, and towards the end they were really knocking at the door. And the fact, again, it comes from a corner. And even from that corner, actually, which Luke Shaw with the handball, they nearly scored anyway, drove it across goal, David De Gea makes a save. I mean, again, we were crumbling. Before our very eyes, we were crumbling again. And we got lucky. We were getting lucky with that. So I didn't sit there like, oh, that's such an injustice. But at the same time, as I mentioned when I started this, I just cannot in good faith sit here this evening and go crazy and pull my hair up. Maybe that's what will do well on the platform. Maybe that's what some people want to see whenever we lose away. But I don't think it's the time to be saying that the top four is over, because it's not. It's not, factually. Again, I'm more confident going away to West Ham, getting a victory, than I was this evening at the Amex. Not to say that I'm saying absolutely put a fiver on it, or we're odds on, but it's still within our hands, and we've still got home games, but we've put pressure on ourselves as we've continued to do at points this season. That's the problem, and definitely not going to be jumping on Ten Hag. I mean, some of the reaction, but this is always the way, isn't it, nowadays? A couple of other super chats here. Owen Style Advisor. By the way, people have been suggesting this is me. This is not me. This is my Style Advisor. It's within the name. It's right there. Yeah. One of our members, long-time supporters, and I guess a supporter of mine, my Style Advisor, says, just a quick one. Thanks for the content, my boy. Well, thank you very much for the contribution, and thanks for the continued support. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. Got over 400 people watching. And remember, get your comments up on the screen. Vicky says, it's both been a member first for 8 months and one of our mods as well, long-time supporter, says, is it me or is the meltdown a little overreaction? The meltdown is always there after any game, sometimes even after we win. the meltdown is there, so it's kind of par for the course, isn't it? Let's see a couple of other chats as well, then we'll go through some players individually, and we'll get some Ten Hag comments, because I've seen he has been talking to the media. Luke Shaw also has been, which fair play. By the way, fair play, Luke Shaw. It's not his fault, but he's the one who's conceded a penalty in the last minute, and the team's lost because of that penalty incident. The team didn't lose because of Luke Shaw. That incident that led to us losing, Luke Shaw was the catalyst of it, obviously. He doesn't have to come out and talk to the media, and it takes brass balls to do so. Plenty of other people at our club that like to call themselves leaders or captains don't do that, don't come out after we lose, and don't do interviews and say they've got nothing to prove and stick their fingers in their ears. So credit to Luke Shaw for doing that, because that's not easy. And again, it wasn't his fault. I actually thought he did quite well. I thought I think as the left centre-back, he's done a good job. What else have we got here? Jag says, not Rashford's fault, but that this team can't come up with a goal if he doesn't score. I'm so sick of Martial. And the other option is Weghorst. Give me strength. Well, look, I understand what you're saying, because Rashford has been largely the person scoring all the goals for us this season. But I don't think that absolves him of the blame this evening, because as I mentioned, I think that front three in general, in Anthony, Martial and Rashford, all had a part to play in not being clinical enough and taking chances. I thought there was even a couple of times, I thought Bruno actually played some really good passes through to all three of them. And again, just poor decision making, poor choices, and every single time so frustrating. Marquis says Anthony missing big chances. Starlord, the original OG member, the first member of the UV Members Club, Starlord, and also the star of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I want to go and watch it. Says it's frustrating. We ain't taking our chances to win games. Joe's been a member for 10 months. Appreciate 10 months of support, Joe. Says, I'm not worried about missing top four. I'm worried about United's form heading into the cup final. They need to start getting momentum over the next few weeks. That's true. And again, that's the thing too, wasn't it, Joe, is that I think some had hoped that if we could get this done early, then maybe, we could, like you say, build up some momentum. And football's a funny thing, because if we beat West Ham at the weekend, then we're fairly confident, because we start looking forward to the next game, Wolves at home, which you would think, touch wood, fingers crossed. I mean, Wolves are safe. They've got nothing really to play for at this point. We've been really good at home this season. then suddenly things look pretty peachy again, don't they? And you go, actually, we're looking pretty good. So what do they say we need? 3 wins. So again, it's still there, but put it this way: heading into that West Ham game on Sunday, it's going to look really bad, isn't it? That's the problem. It's going to look really bad and be really worrying because there's gonna be a point in it. And unless Liverpool somehow drop points at home to Brentford, which again, you never know. Brentford have got a couple of big away wins this season, particularly one at the Etihad, so it's not out of their reach or anything like that, but they've kind of tailed off a little bit, haven't they, recently? But there's going to be a point in it. And that's the worry. That's the concern. Do we manage that pressure and do we not freak out as a fan base and as a team? Cabs, one of our members, says the better team won today. That's all, Owen. I criticised Flex earlier, but he was 100% right. These players ain't ready. Owen, I'm really scared that we may lose against West Ham. Trust me. Look, it's possible. Away from home, we ain't it. Again, I would latch on to we ain't it against top half sides away from home. So. And let's hope we do see a reaction from these United players today. I don't know. I can't guarantee that. But even if that was the case, even if we did lose that game, we would still be a point in front with a game in hand, and we've still got home games remaining. So it's still firmly within our hands. Ideally, we would not put this level of pressure on ourselves, and this Man United team has shown this season, away from home in particular, they don't really tend to handle pressure that well. But again, I'm not going to come on here this evening and be totally freaking out. Now, if we lose against West Ham at the weekend, obviously I'll be very, very concerned. And I don't even really want to look too far up to the FA Cup final, honestly, because with the form that City are in at the moment, and with us, again, my feeling is, my prediction is that we will get top 4, but it's going to be a case of stumbling over the line. I think we'll fall over the line. I think just about. But in an ideal world, we'd make it very easy for ourselves. That's it. NK says, we sound like Arsenal now, it's in our hands, look where they are now. Obviously, like I said earlier on, I'm remiss to say that and look at Arsenal because it was in their hands and they bought it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could either. My goodness, football, anything's possible in football, especially at this point of the season. Weird results start happening and strange things happen. Teams go to grounds they wouldn't usually pick up victories and they win games. If anything, though, today, this kind of went exactly how I think quite a few fans probably thought it would happen. I was chatting to Flex before kickoff on the phone, and we were sort of saying that we felt that it was going to be like this, honestly. And do you know what is frustrating as well? Is, as I said, I thought actually first half we were all right. I really did. I thought first half we were okay. Again, we created chances. We played with intensity. We played with aggression. We were pressing them up high, and we were pressed them really intensely in the midfield. And at the time, I understood why Ten Hag had made the selection he had. He started with Fred instead of Eriksen, and he didn't start Sancho, and you could see why. Because you go, hey, if he wants to play with intensity, and if he wants to play with a defensive rigidity, and again, winning the ball back, pressing high, Sancho and Eriksen, they're not really the two for that. And we created chances. But having watched United in every game this season, I think everyone to a person knew we can't keep that up over 90 minutes. We've played so many games and this team drops off anyway, even when we're not playing with a high intensity. So they were always going to drop off, and we did. My criticism to Ten Hag probably would be is that I think he took too long for subs. I mean, what was it? It was like 70 minutes, I think, before he made subs, and they were well dominating the game by that point. And by that point, we would clearly be like, okay, we're going for a point. But by that point, I felt that their tails were up and they had too much momentum. Again, in hindsight, you'd say make the subs 10 minutes earlier, try and change the momentum of the game, try and get a better foothold in the game, because by that point, it just felt like, again, it was just a pendulum that was swinging their way instead of ours. But And also as well, it's just we were creating nothing, next to nothing in the second half. And again, I know it's easy in hindsight, and what did Ten Hag say when you look a cow in the arse or something like that? It's his phrase. It's easy to say these things, but I just felt the subs were a little bit too late. And again, you got to take your chances. You have to. And Brighton deserved their win. And Brighton, frankly, probably deserved their bit of luck in getting the penalty. Not that it was lucky, because it was a penalty. And Blue Dabba Dabadai says, we didn't really press high, Owen. Brighton wanted us to press high so they could get in behind us. And we didn't take the bait until the second half, excuse me, when Fred came off and Sabitzer came on. Well, I thought we did, because in the first half, again, you saw how they were doing their goal kicks. We nearly scored from one, really. We pressed super high because they gave the ball away because of our pressure, and that's when Anthony should have scored. And then in the midfield, we were doing as well. But again, in my opinion, I just felt we were never going to keep that intensity up. Obviously, their game plan is knowing that we're going to do that, and like you say, try and knock it over the top. And a couple of times they did get in because of that. But I felt that was our game plan, and it worked because we created chances from it. We were winning the ball back in high areas, we were forcing them into mistakes, and we were creating chances because of that. But at the same time, again, if you're going to do that, and you're going to play with that level of intensity early on, which you know is not sustainable, you have to take your chances. You can't be missing one-on-ones. You can't be, again, sloppy in front of goal. But if we could play like that, if we could play like we did in the first half of the entire game, we'd have probably won it, honestly. But we didn't, and we were never going to. Wizard says Brighton lost a lot of their best players last summer, and they got a new manager, and they're still dominating and making life hard for United. United needs a culture change, 100. To be honest, I mean, Brighton, our record at the Amex, and this was another reason, like the stats were just never in our favour going into this game. Not only, as I mentioned, had we not won against a top side in the top half in the Premier League since November, that being the Fulham win, not only had we not kept a clean sheet against a side in the top half in the Premier League since November, I think, of 2021. But also, our record at the Amex is the worst of any side that we've played more than one game against in the Premier League. I think we've lost 60% of our games away at the Amex because our record's shit there. Like, just not good. And I can just see Sky, they're just looking at the results against the top 9. Brentford lost, City lost, Villa lost, Arsenal lost, Liverpool lost, Newcastle lost, Tottenham draw, Brighton lost. And I was talking to Flex about this too. Just imagine half of those games we hadn't lost. Even if we had drawn them, or let alone win a couple, we'd be so comfortable. We would be so comfortable in the top 4 at the moment. And it has to be addressed next season. And I think it is a combination of, if we have a striker, we probably do win a couple of those games, because they were games where we did have chances, but we didn't take them. But a couple of them, I mean, the real devastating defeats, it's a mentality issue. It's a culture issue that needs to be addressed still. There is still a soft underbelly to this United side. There is still a fragile nature to a lot of them. I do think some of it does come from whereby if a team scores, they go, right, that's it, because we're not scoring. So that's it, we've already lost. They just give up. But there's still a lot that needs to be fixed. And if we basically make top 4 essentially on home form alone, then my goodness me. My goodness. As I mentioned, we are going to get some reactions, some quotes. So let me get these up in front of me here, and we can see what the players and the manager, etc., has had to say. As I mentioned, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe to bottom right hand corner. Luke Shaw, as I mentioned, was interviewed after the game. He said, "It hurts a lot. I can't explain why my hand is up there, but the top 4 is still in our hands. Again, still in our hands." Getting, flashbacks. I mean, he doesn't have to explain. Why is your hand up there? I don't know. It's natural reaction, I suppose. But at the same time, as I said, I thought that I'm not going to sit here and blame Luke Shaw for that, because, again, I think that's incredibly, incredibly harsh. One quite damning statistic as well is that Manchester United have just taken 1 point from their away matches against the top 9 sides in the league this season. As I mentioned, that's against Spurs. He continues, Luke Shaw, and this is really the crux of it as well, is he says the problem is we don't score. That happened a lot of times this season. It comes down to the chance at the end, but the game is different if we score the chances we make. And that's really it. And again, I think it takes a lot of balls for Luke Shaw to come out and do the interview after the game, because people that don't know football will look at him afterwards and go, "Oh, it's your fault, Luke Shaw. You're the one we lost." Luke Shaw ain't the reason we lost this evening. As he mentioned, the problem is we don't score, and that has happened so many times, even in games that we have won. Is that we don't score enough goals, we don't take chances, and then you end up in a situation where your defenders or your goalkeeper are having to bail you out because you're not doing your job and they have to do theirs to keep Man United in the game. And that was the problem. As Luke Shaw says, we should have been 3-0 up in the first half. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Erik ten Hag spoke to Sky after the game. He said we had to score our chances. In the end, we lost control. Midfield was too open. Erik ten Hag, when speaking about Luke Shaw, said Luke Shaw played a great game. The free kick that led to the corner was never a foul, which he's right about, by the way. He is. And again, I don't want to dwell too much on that, but he is right. It wasn't a foul for the free kick. And I was a bit concerned for Shaw at the time because you could tell he was particularly pissed off about it, and it sort of looked like his head went down. You saw Dallo went up to him to sort of say, keep your mind going, keep focused, and maybe that did play a part. I don't know, but it wasn't a foul. Probably a troll. Sometimes when you see like a chat or whatever, and you go, "Oh, I don't believe you're who you are." See what else some of you guys are saying here. Jag says, special mention to Wan-Bissaka, pocketed Matoma. I thought Wan-Bissaka, again, I thought the defence did well in general. Wan-Bissaka did well again. As I mentioned, I think Matoma did get probably a little bit more success against Wan-Bissaka than he did in the FA Cup final because he got literally nothing. But Wan-Bissaka, again, did very, very well. Pyramid Scheme says, these excuses would never run at Madrid. We're officially a small club. I just think that's a massive overreaction. The excuses as to what? That we didn't score enough goals. I mean, factually, I don't know if it's necessarily an excuse. It's a fact. If you score goals, you're more than likely to win the game. And you expect your attackers, if they're through on goal, to score goals. And if they don't, it should be because the goalkeeper's making big, big saves. And the Brighton goalkeeper didn't tonight. He made comfortable saves where he didn't have to make them. For me, that's where if the blame, if anything, should lie. It should be on the attackers this evening because they didn't do their job. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain, in my opinion. But if you want to call that excuses, I mean, I'm pretty sure if Real Madrid had lost this game 1-0 tonight and they'd missed the chances that they had, they would be saying, Karim Benzema should have scored. Or Vinicius should have scored, or whatever, So that's the way it is. Pyramid then also says, I'm not overreacting. I said we would be losing, or Lois Young losing before the game. This is no surprise. I'm with you. I didn't think we were going to get anything out of this game. What else have we got here? Lion's opinion says, Owen, mate. Caps. Half this team wouldn't be on the bench, let alone starting in a title-winning team. We're not a title-winning team, though. A lot of these still players are going to be going in the summer. Let's be honest, and that's why we're actively recruiting for players. That's why we're looking for a striker. That's why we're looking for at least a couple of midfielders. That's why we're looking for another centre back. And again, this is the thing with football, isn't it? Is that if we win at the weekend, it'll be like we're the greatest team ever, So again, I'm not going to come on here and go crazy and massively overreact because I don't think there's need. I don't think there's a need for it. Ten Hag continued to say after the game, this was really unlucky. It was a draw from my perspective. It is a lesson we have to take. We have to bounce back on Sunday. That is the one thing, though. That is, I said this in a couple of press conferences recently that I don't know about you, but I am really tired this season. Really, really tired this season. Of having, to come after games and go, well, we got to bounce back at the weekend. Bounce back in the game. And obviously you can't in this instance because they scored the last kick. But even when they're creating chances and they're getting a foothold in the game, bounce back. Don't settle. Don't just go, don't wither. That's the problem too. And again, and we have, look, pretty much every time we've had a setback this season, we have bounced back. But the concern is, how many times do you have to bounce back? How many times do you have to over and over and over and over again? Ten Hag continued by saying, in the first minute, we created a great chance. We should have scored. We have to be more clinical. Again, that's factual. He then said, we had the chances from Anthony, Rashford, Anthony Martial and Casemiro. One has to go in. We have to finish our chances and not make mistakes in the last second. Top four is in our hands. We have to take the lessons tonight and move on. So look, the general consensus from the manager, which I think is fair and I think is the accurate one, is that, again, you've got to take your chances. You've got to be clinical. And I know obviously that's oversimplifying it, and you can get into the nitty gritty of the tactics, and I'm sure someone like Cam will do that. I don't think there's a tactical view for this game, but there will be after the West Ham game on Sunday. It'll be coming Monday as per usual. But it's we can talk about all the stats and statistics in the world, but ultimately what it comes down to is the fundamentals. Put the ball in the back of the net. If you get chances, if you get one-on-ones, you've got to do better. You've just got to. And there's been all this talk, hasn't there, recently about Erling Haaland breaking the amount of goals scored in a Premier League season. But even if it's not him at Man City, people like Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, even like De Bruyne or whoever, Foden, they score those chances. They don't miss. They don't miss one-on-ones or anything like that. They create even more chances than we do, but they don't miss, and by that point, if they get a couple, they're 2-0 up, and even then Brighton are like, well, it's going to be difficult to come back, and that's the difference. Even you think, look at when we played Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last week. Even though we scored two, and it was an early one from Sancho and one right before half-time with Rashford, again, we went in at half-time going, we should be maybe 3 or 4 up. We've had a couple of big chances here, and it was Fraser Forster making saves in that game. So again, that's been a reoccurring thing for us this season is, for all the talk about the big defeats away from home, and there have been big defeats, obviously, and our goal difference, as I said earlier on when I did the morning view of Flex, you look at the goals we've conceded, it's a similar number to a lot of the teams around us. It's 1 goal more after this evening than Arsenal. It's 2 goals less than Liverpool. It's the same amount of goals as Brighton. We've conceded less goals than Spurs. We've conceded less goals than Aston Villa, less goals than Brentford. So in the top half, in terms of conceding goals, it's not there, but it's goals scored. I mean, look at the goals for versus all of them. City scored more than us. Arsenal scored more than us. Newcastle scored more than us. Liverpool scored more than us. Brighton scored more than us. Spurs scored more than us. We've scored 3 more goals than Aston Villa. Brentford scored more goals than us. That's what it is. Those numbers really don't lie. That's the massive problem. We've scored 49 goals. Then you look at Newcastle 61, Liverpool 66, Brighton 62, Spurs 63. And this is what I think is interesting. People want to talk about the difference Harry Kane. Spurs have scored how many goals this season? 63 goals, and they're crap, by the way. And Harry Kane's like 20 plus of those. And that's the difference, isn't it? Without Harry Kane in their side, they would have scored less goals than us, because that's the difference. That's what's having someone like, someone that can score 20 plus goals in your side. That's what it does. Obviously, someone Erling Haaland, that's what it does, 35 goals. The goal scored is actively costing us this season. Not other aspects. Obviously, you can talk about mentality, but it's goals scored. And whilst I didn't think Rashford was particularly good this evening, and again, I think his decision making still has a lot of improvement to go, because he does run into blind alleys and doesn't look up and doesn't slide in his teammate. Imagine Rashford hadn't scored his goals for us this season. I mean, it's only really been Marcus Rashford getting the goals. Yeah, Martial comes on whenever he's fit and maybe gets a goal, but because he's very rarely fit until this point of the season, we'd be in a lot of trouble, like a serious amount of trouble. So, that's the key thing. And I honestly don't know if that gets resolved between now and the end of the season. I think pretty much the majority of the games that we have, they're gonna be 1-0s, 2-1s, sort of nicking it, because we're just not there in terms of goals scored. And that's why it's, as the manager says, it's clear, it's clear. We need a goal scorer. Priority one. We spoke this morning about the budget and 100 million quid being available with FFP restrictions and player sales and what have you. Even if we have the worst transfer window and we only sign one player because of all the bullshit going on with the takeover and all that kind of stuff, let it be a striker. Let it be a striker that's a 20-plus goal striker. And I'm not saying we're going to win the league or the Champions League or anything like that, but it will just make a massive difference. Frankly, if we do have the money, get 2 of them. Because we don't know what's going on with Anthony Martial, if he's going to be fit. Well, if this season is anything to go by, no, he won't be for all of next season. So we need 2. We need the franchise player, striker, if you will, and then we need someone else that's going to be also coming in and contributing goals. And also, we need those midfielders also that contribute goals too. The pressure can't be on just a Bruno Fernandes to also get goals as well, because it's kind of moved into more creation of goals, hasn't it too? But that really is the difference. When it comes to Martial tonight, look, I thought he was poor, lad, as Kenny would say. He was very, very poor. The thing is with Martial is he's one of those players, isn't he, where, and we have seen this a few times this season when he has been available, that he can go through games and really do next to nothing and do really not really anything all that much, but then he'll get a goal and you go, well, Martial, he's come on, he's got his assist or he's got his goal, good for him. But the problem is, if he don't score, you go, well, what are you doing? Well, what are you doing in this game? Because he did next to nothing. And Wout Weghorst, and the problem is then Wout Weghorst is the backup option. Weghorst comes on. I mean, did he touch the ball? Maybe twice. And thing is, when you bring Weghorst on with how many minutes was it to go? 10 minutes to go. It's more hope, isn't it? Not necessarily expectation or get balls into the box, put balls up high to him. It's more out of hope. You never know. He scored 2 at the World Cup for the Netherlands against Argentina, but we know. We know that's it's not gonna happen. There's a super chat here. We'll get this one up on the screen from Joe. Says there were 9 players starting that were part of the worst season in United's Premier League history. 9. Don't think we could expect them to be consistent every game. Well, again, the only thing the United have been there's 2 things actually United have been consistent in this season. Is that at home we tend to win and away from home we don't. That's how consistent we have been. We've been consistently inconsistent, but the consistencies are quite clear. At home, we can do it. Away from home, we can't. Now, why can't we? Mentality, attitude, and again, just being clinical. Because at home, you're more likely to get those chances, aren't you? Even if you're not being clinical, you've got the crowd behind you. The other team, they're away from home, so they're going to be a bit more naturally defensive. Whereas away from home, if you keep missing chances and you allow your opponent back in the game, then they have the advantage of having the crowd on their side. And, they can will them back into the game and they can put pressure on you. And this team can't manage pressure. And Blue Dabba Dabadai says, the people want a skincare routine and workout routine, Owen. Well, I can confirm for the answer of both is neither. Particularly at the moment. I don't know if you saw me on the Morning View this morning. I had my food shop delivered during the show, which me is incredibly professional. And I had to sprint down a flight of stairs and carry crates of food and groceries and household items. And I got back on the stream and I was wheezing. I couldn't talk. And as for the skincare routine, it's water. You get the natural glow. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Pens and papers ready. Nothing. That's. I hope you've all got that. I'll repeat it once again. Nothing. Just write that down. Just nothing. Duma with the super chat says, you look at Rashford and you say to yourself, if he doesn't score a screamer, what else does he offer? And we're talking about a rumoured 400k a week. Well, of course, yes, the contract negotiations are still ongoing for Marcus Rashford. And chances are he is going to be signing a new deal at United. I still say, and this is my tinfoil hat conspiracy, that there is still something up with him. He has not been he hasn't been the same since he had that injury. Who did he pick the injury up against? Remind me. All the games kind of blur together, don't they? When he missed this, he came back for the Sevilla game. What game did he get injured in? I forgot which game it was because he did a story, didn't he? Nevertheless, he got injured and he came back for the Sevilla game away, and he came off the bench and everyone went, well, he clearly wasn't ready. He came back for the FA Cup semi-final, started again, Everton, that was it. And thank you, Oliver, for that. And he was okay, but still the same. He just, I don't know, he doesn't just look as, I don't know, electric as he did. He just doesn't look as, I don't know, quick, fast. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the right word is. But there was a point earlier on this season, like January time, right after the World Cup. Ironically enough, when we played like City at Old Trafford, where he was just invincible, wasn't he? He just shrugged everything off. In that game against City, I thought he was going to go off with an injury. He went down and he hurt his hip, and then he played throughout the whole game. He got moved to centre forward and he scored the winning goal, and he was just impervious, wasn't he? And you just felt this guy, he's got it now. He's got the bit between his teeth. His mentality is so strong, and it's just since that injury, maybe he's like just trying to get back up to pace, or he's forcing it. Sometimes I feel like he forces it a little bit. And as I said today, this is a couple of occasions. I'm begging him to get his head up. I'm begging him. He picks up the ball. He gets good areas, or switches of the ball go to him. Bruno, I give Bruno credit because I thought he picked out some really good passes and some real good link-up play this evening. Gets it to Rashford, and Rashford just goes boom at the defenders, and he draws the defenders in. You think, brilliant, you've drawn two defenders in, Martial's there or Bruno's there, just lay the ball off to them, they can get a shot at target, it's a goal, and he'll just run into them, try and go past them, and then just leather it at the goalkeeper, and you just go, and look, sometimes they go in, and when they go in, you go, brilliant, determination, goal scorer, that's how you got your goals this season. But sometimes you just need, again, away from home, just need to play the smart pass or the right pass at the right time. And that was for all of them in the front line. Anthony was the same. When you miss that one-on-one, after 2 minutes, you sort of go, what's he going to do today? Because he's still in that inconsistent phase too. I remember when we were away from home against Forest, and it was the best game Anthony had in a Manchester United shirt. He was excellent that day, and you saw what he was capable of. Followed up the shot, he got an assist for Dallow's goal, and it was a brilliant reverse pass. And again, I talk about decision making, finding the right pass at the right time, taking your time, getting your head up, looking for your teammates, looking for the right run. That's what he did. And today it was just an example of what he doesn't do when he does, again, make those wrong decisions. And I'm not questioning his work rate, because I think he did, again, his work rate was good in terms of defensive tracking. But you need to do more. You need to do more. That's the frustrating thing. This is an interesting. Sandip is dead. Sandip HG is dead. I hope not. I hope Sandip is fine. Says Rashford never looks for a pass, and it's honestly so frustrating. NK says, why isn't Palestri getting more game time? At least he looks up and tries to find a player in the box. That's something Anthony is not doing. And no, I'm not saying drop him completely. I'm just saying something different. I would love to see Palestri come on for a few more cameos or substitute appearances. And sometimes he doesn't for whatever reason. And I think you are right. Sometimes you want something a bit different. And because Palestri is a completely different player to Anthony, because he's more direct and he'll be on the sideline a bit more often. And sometimes you need that. You just need to freshen things up, don't you? And sometimes we just don't see that for whatever reason. SJ says, I thought you returned to the gym, Owen. Well, I have. Actually, I didn't. I didn't. I was doing me and KG, I don't know what KG's doing, but we were doing the fitness routine, and I actually did it just by hitting the pavement, as it were. I was doing that instead. And to be fair, it's quite, especially this time of year, it's quite nice. Although today, wow, this is very sidetrack. This is very sidetracking. But I was going out to hit the pavement, as it were, and it was kind of interrupted because the route that I would usually take was interrupted by someone that was strapping themselves and a wasp nest to a load of railings, and it was kind of bizarre. And then I've just reminded myself of it. Now I'm going to be all itchy. You know when, like, like, say for instance, if you see like a spider or you see like bugs or flies, and then for all day after that you feel itchy all day. You know they're not on you. You know they're not there, but all day you just suddenly. When I had to go a long way round this like bee's nest or wasp nest, whatever it was, when someone put themselves to a railing, and I just all day after that I was so like, I was just all day I was like that. I couldn't be doing with it, and it was crazy. It was nuts. And Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die says, Rashford got 29 goals in all comps this season. You want him gone? Are you mental? No, I don't want Rashford gone. Unless some other people were referring to that, but I don't. So yes, there you go, guys. Well, look, as we've spoken about, Brighton leave the Amex with all the 3 points this evening. And we have to bounce back, as the Manchester United manager says. We bounce back. We go again on Sunday. West Ham at the strange time of 7 p.m, the kickoff there at the London Stadium. I don't know why that is. My feeling is it might have something to do with the coronation, or I might have just made that up. So if you actually know that, you can let me know. If you haven't already, click the like button as well. As for what's on tap for the remainder of the evening and tomorrow, of course, all of the fan views I'm sure are going up right now, or have already gone up, from inside UVHQ and outside of the Amex. Of course, Flex was there, Marcel was there. I'm sure Flex will speak to some others as well, so be sure to check that out, as well as the player ratings too. I didn't even say that. I didn't even do player ratings. Oh, let's do player ratings now. Let's be quick and do player ratings. Let's make sure I get my team right on the screen. So I want to make sure I don't forget anyone. We'll do player ratings quickly. Here we go. Right. Player ratings. David De Gea in goal. My rating for David De Gea. You know what? I'd give him a 7. I'd give David De Gea a 7. He made big save. That could have been a completely different result if David De Gea went in goal. Whether it's Lindelof with the bad pass in the first half hits him in the face. Whether it's the save that he made just before we conceded the penalty. He made a couple of saves, actually. So I'd give him a 7. I don't think David De Gea did all that much wrong today. I think he can hold his head up fairly high. Wan-Bissaka, I'd probably give him... What would I say who's better than De Gea? Wan-Bissaka, I'd probably give a 6. I'd probably give a 6 for Wan-Bissaka. Maybe a 7. I'll give him a 7, actually, because I thought he did well against, I don't know, 6. It's one of those ones, 6 feels low, 7 feels high. You know what I mean? Because we did lose. But I thought defensively, again, I thought we were fine defensively. I didn't think we were bad defensively. I'll give him a... this is why I don't do player ratings. I'll give Wan-Bissaka a 6. 7. I'll give him a 7 against Matoma. Victor Lindelof, I'll give a 6. Luke Shaw, I'll give Luke Shaw a 7. Even though he conceded the penalty, honestly, I would give Luke Shaw a 7 because I thought he did well. Dallo, I'd give a 6 because I thought he looked a bit shaky at times. Midfield, Bruno, I'd give a 6. Casemiro, I'd give a 6. Fred, what did Fred do? Fred, I'd give a 5. I know I'm Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die saying, nah, Owen. I think it's referring to the Lindelof thing. Yeah, it's probably going to be the Lindelof thing. Front three, I give Anthony a 4. Martial a 3. Rashford a 4. They did nothing that front three for me. What did I give Fred? Did I give Fred a 5 But yeah, they did nothing that midfield three, that front three rather. I can't actually think of what Martial did. Legit. I'm trying to think. He had one shot, went straight at the keeper. That was it. And again, because that, but in those ratings, I think that sums up the issues. Is that the issues were not the goalkeeper, the issues were not the back four, the midfield I thought did okay. They could have been better. Fred wasn't that good. Casemiro was lucky to stay on the pitch. I thought Bruno did okay, but it was the front three. That was it. And to be honest, Anthony, I forgot about that. Anthony, when he kicked out of that player, I mean, he got booked, but at the time it was one of those ones. But you know, when people, thing is that people will say, you know, at least they were fighting Anthony, but fight by putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, don't kick out because you've been shit in the game or you've been missing chances. You know, channel it, do something. You know, as for other people that came on. Sabitzer, Sancho and Veghorst, I wouldn't even give them numbers because I didn't even think they really did anything when they came on. So I don't even know if it's necessarily fair to give them ratings, to be honest. But because they didn't affect the game at all. So I'm not going to give them ratings. But there you go, guys. As I mentioned, fan views are going up as we speak right now. So I believe, yes, they're up on the channel. So KG says, Shaw Costas, you're a disgrace, KG, you're a cheat. Shaw Costas, you serious? We need more. Whoa, what's going on here? What's going on here with some of these titles? KG says Shaw Costas, DJ said we need more than Shaw. Forget that. Forget Shaw, put the ball in the back of the net, man. I'm having words. It's a disgrace, it's a cheat. Anyway, guys, look, I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I will be back tomorrow morning live with another edition of The Morning View, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Have a good evening. Peace.